Several years ago, while Donald Trump was still president, the Department of Justice opened an investigation into Hunter Biden, the son of presidential candidate Joe Biden. President Trump was apparently unaware of that investigation and was reportedly livid when, days after losing that election, it was Hunter Biden himself who announced that he was under federal investigation related to a tax case. Trump perhaps understood this to be a missed opportunity. Anyway, the DOJ investigation continued, and under Joe Biden's presidency, Hunter Biden was charged with 2 misdemeanors for failing to pay his taxes on time in 2017 and 2018. Biden is also facing a separate charge for failing to disclose he was using drugs when he bought a gun back in 2018. And so after all of these years, the Hunter Biden saga was poised to conclude today as Biden and his lawyers entered a Delaware court ready to plead guilty to the tax charges. Now, the guilty plea was part of an agreement Biden had reached with the prosecutor in charge of this investigation, the prosecutor who was a Trump appointee. That agreement stated that Hunter Biden would not be prosecuted for the gun charge if he abided certain conditions. Experts say this was a fairly standard deal, but it fell apart today, at least temporarily, over a question about the terms of the agreements. The judge also asked both sides about the scope of the immunity, which was a good question to ask, given that Trump and a lot of other Republicans are running on a promise to prosecute Hunter Biden again with or without evidence. Joining us now is former U.S. Attorney and senior FBI official Chuck Rosenberg. He is also an MSNBC contributor. Chuck, it's great to see you this evening, and thank you in advance for helping clear up what exactly went down in Delaware today. I think a lot of people understand that this plea deal had been worked on for quite some time now. So how exactly did it fall apart in the courtroom at the last minute, and how unusual is that?
Yeah, it's unusual. I mean, plea agreements happen all the time, every day, in every federal courthouse around the country, Alex. And every now and then they hit a snag. It's unusual, but not unheard of. When it happens in a high-profile case, of course, we're paying more attention. So what happened here? There seemed to be 2 problems. The first one was that the judge was concerned that the pretrial diversion agreement gave her a role that she was uncomfortable with, not just adjudicating whether there was a breach or could be a breach of that provision down the road, but that it gave her some other decision-making authority that she thought best left to the executive branch. Now, we haven't seen the plea documents. I don't know precisely what the language is. We don't know precisely what concerned her, but that seems to be snag number 1. Snag number 2 is what you just referred to, how broadly the government would confer on Biden once he pled guilty immunity for other crimes. Happy to talk about either. They're both important. I do think, however, Alex, that they will be resolved and this will ultimately go forward.
Do you think those 2 snags are sort of political at their root? I mean, I would imagine if you're Hunter Biden's team, resting any power or privilege with the executive branch is chancy, right, depending on who the executive is. And the same is true for, other parts where you're deferring to potential DOJ investigations down the line when, I don't know, Donald Trump could be president again. I mean, do you think that that's at the root of the concern here, that Biden's folks are worried that this could be the new Benghazi where Hunter Biden is, investigated exhaustively despite whatever evidence may not exist?
Yeah, I imagine their concerns are not with this prosecutor or this administration. But to your larger point, the reason a defendant would want broad immunity from other prosecutions is because, well, in this case, if Mr. Trump wins the presidency, he's vowed to go after what he calls the Biden crime family. I think that's a deeply offensive and reckless statement, but it has to resonate with Hunter Biden. And so when a defendant pleads guilty, they're looking for immunity from crimes that the government knows about, that it has investigated. They want some assurance that this chapter in their life has closed. The government, of course, wants to confer a more narrow immunity. Let me give you an example, if I may, Alex. Let's say you and I are out robbing banks across the country, and we've robbed 10, and the government knows about all 10, and you and I plead guilty to 3 of those. They're going to promise us that they're not going to prosecute us for the additional 7. That's typical. But maybe they don't know that you and I are also counterfeiting currency. And so the government wouldn't agree to immunize us as part of our plea agreement for stuff they don't know about. And that was one of the issues today. How broad is the immunity that the government's going to confer on Mr. Biden if he pleads guilty? And, of course, Mr. Biden is thinking not just about this attorney general and this president and this administration, but what might happen to him if Mr. Trump regains the presidency.
Well, and indeed, those concerns seem well-founded, given the fact that members of Congress speaking today, Republicans including Nancy Mace, saying, I think that the sort of dissolution of this plea deal opens some doors here and gives us a little more fuel behind what we're doing. They've suggested that there could be an impeachment inquiry regarding Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's alleged role in some of the financial misdeeds, though there has been no actual evidence to that end. I mean, how unusual is it to have members of Congress making statements about federal investigations like this?
Yeah, I've gone through much of my adult life, Alex, not paying any attention to what members of Congress say, and I mean that in a bipartisan sense. I don't think it matters at all to the prosecutors here. It may matter in some quarters. It may matter in politics. It may matter for fundraising. But to the prosecutors, I can assure you it doesn't matter at all, and they don't pay attention to it. So it's an unusual case because it's a high-profile case. Most cases, as I mentioned, do resolve by plea agreement. Occasionally they hit snags. But what Republicans or Democrats or anyone has to say about it, frankly, doesn't mean very much at all.